What you always start in a script is fade in. That's just like a general rule of script writing. It's just an indication that, the story is about to start.
Welcome back to the call-in. If this is your first time to the channel, this is a show where we get to ask professionals from all across the globe how their industry works and how we can learn from them. Today, we've got Elizabeth Francisco, all the way from Curacao. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Tinashe. Thank you so much for inviting me to your show. Appreciate it.
It is such a pleasure. Today, we're going to be talking about script writing. Whether you're doing a short film, feature film, advert, or even something simpler for radio, a script is a foundation, the first block that you need to have for a production. And a lot of people don't understand the fundamentals of how a script is made. So today, we're going to look at how a professional script is done. So first of all, what is a script, Liz?
Okay, so a script is a blueprint for your production. So aside from the creative, you have this idea of a story you want to tell. You have your beginning, middle, and end. A script is also going to bring together your production crew and steer it into one direction. So you have to think of filmmaking as a collaborative process. It's not just, your director who's only making all the decisions. And in not all of the cases, the writer is going to direct the film himself or the project. So this script is going to help, for instance, your cinematographer have an overview of how he's going to light all scenes, how your production designer is going to build the sets, your costume designer, what kind of wardrobe is needed to bring the story to life. So it's really the you can say the manual for shooting. So I would say maybe 60% of it is creative. You come up with the story, with this amazing story, the solutions. But a good 40% is also the formatting. Formatting is so important so that everyone understands and is on the same page. If you have a crew of 100 people, or I don't know, of these, like if you think of these really big sets and productions, not everyone is going to read the script in detail. So you need to make sure that when you're breaking down the scripts, the scripts into, scenes, into shooting days, the technical aspect is there so everyone can get to work. So a lot of people don't give credit to that aspect of it. So that's why, script writing is very important. Not just creatively, but also formatting wise.
Okay, yeah. So you said writing a script in the correct format is really important. But what software can you use to write a script?
Well, there's different softwares. I've only worked with two. Mm-hmm. I've worked with Celtics or Celtics, I don't know how you pronounce it, for many years. But since 2016, I've switched over to Final Draft, which is my preferred go-to. But there's Studio Binder, Scrivener,
and those are like
Fade In.
You get those ones online, right? I know Studio Binder, you need to work with that online.
Yes, you can get those online. A lot of them you have to pay for. Before I even started with Celtics, using it, my first scripts, my first 2 or 3 scripts I wrote just in Word document. So I studied and read a lot of scripts, and I just started by feeling, because I didn't go to film school. So my first scripts I wrote in Word document. So what I did was I read a lot of script, I analyzed a lot of script, and I just gave it a shot. I took this introduction to script writing class, and like I said, I didn't have any software, so I just put the character, put the action, and just by learning, that's also a good way to start. If you're very new to it, you don't have to commit to and spending a lot of money to getting a software, but you can just get a feel for it and try it yourself. So yeah, that's also a good way to start, especially with short projects. With a short or a commercial, that's not a bad thing to do.
Right now, is it possible that we break down a script or a page of a script that you've done before, and we can learn the format of how you write a script, as well as you use Final Draft, so we can also learn how you use Final Draft.
All right, so this script is a project you and I actually worked on a few weeks ago. There was the 48-hour stuck at home version, and we participated in the East Africa time zone for it. Yeah, so what we had to do was a trailer, and we had to do a mashup of two films. So what we did was we chose two known films, so Hotel Rwanda and The Birds. We took those two films, fused it, and made a trailer for it. And
If you guys want to see a link to that video, it will be in the description.
exactly, you can look at it.
Yeah.
So this is the one pager. I don't mind sharing this script as well, if anyone wants it, and we can send them the script as well if they want to see it.
Awesome. It will be in the description as well.
Yeah. So what you always start in a script is fade in. That's just like a general rule of script writing. It's just an indication that the story is about to start. And in this instance, we wanted to start with some sound, and I feel like I don't know why, it's something I really like as a filmmaker myself. Do not ask me what is maybe it's a phase, but I like the idea of playing with all senses as much as I can. So I like sound. The sound is very important in film. So we started with over black. So, it's a black screen, and then you hear a sound. So static, fading in and out. What you have to think about when you're formatting a script is you have to describe what your viewer, your audience is going to see on screen. That's how you write a script. So, and it's hard because sometimes you want to describe emotions and how this person is thinking, but a viewer is not going to be able to see that unless you use a voiceover, because then you solve that problem. But if you're not using voiceover in a film, you really have to work with describing the images. So it's like a sketch of all the images that they're viewing. So static fading in and out, you hear it. And then we go to a close-up. CU is short for close-up in film, in film vernacular. And you see a hand tuning a radio. So you see a hand, on the tuning button and, moving it around. Radio voice. This is an emergency broadcast. Please stay inside. We are under bleep. So that's kind of like the intro to our trailer. So radio voice would be like a character. I didn't identify who the person is because it's not important in this case, because it's someone on the radio and it's an emergency. One other thing that we didn't specify was a hand tuning a radio. I have to say this because when we were going over the script with the director and the producers, they were all asking, oh, whose hand is it? And I didn't think it was important. I don't know about you, Tanasha. We didn't say this person's specific hand because, again, it's an emergency. It's a trailer. It's really fast and quick. But usually you have to think about these things. Whose hand? Why is it important? In this case, I for one, didn't feel it was important. So a random hand, could be tuning in because in this trailer, the world was ending. So everyone was panicking and listening to the radio.
Yeah.
That's the story behind that.
I think it's one thing I think you raised something important there, because as a scriptwriter, as much as you want to feed the director and the producers as much information as you can, you also want to just feed them relevant information. So
Exactly.
if it's not relevant as to who is turning on the radio, then don't put it in. The director can then choose who they can be the director's or the producer's choice as to who they want to do a certain action or to do a certain thing, or even like what you said for emotion, where you can write a piece of dialogue and the actor can interpret that piece of dialogue how you want. If it's not necessary for them to be angry, then you, as a scriptwriter, you don't write be angry. If a scriptwriter writes angrily says, then it is a really important part of the story that piece be in there.
That you said it, you were on the point with that. Because you and we knew that we weren't going to direct this, neither you or I. We knew that, one, for us it didn't matter, and it was the director's choice. So that's another thing you have to think about as a scriptwriter. When you're writing a script, try to stay away from making choices that the director is going to take, because maybe they have another vision and they want to take it into a different direction. So you have to be able to let go of that. Now, you and I are both directors, and we know that that's very hard to do sometimes. And even in this script, we snuck in a few camera angles because we felt like that's going to make it powerful. But I always have to try to not to do that too much. So if I do that, it's on a very minimum. Okay, so the next part, what's very important, is a scene heading. So a scene heading is going to indicate the location, whether it's interior or exterior, and whether it's daytime or nighttime. So the first word is exterior, EXT, vacation home yard. So you know that they're at a vacation home, like a resort, and they're in the yard, and it's daytime.
Yes.
If your viewers in the future want another, like, more in-depth, like script writing, like a step 2 from this workshop, we can do like one page together, and then we'll show them how to type. But this is just for them to have an overview. Okay, so I'm just going to read this small part. Tessa, 21, arrives on location carrying a weekend bag or small luggage. She's using her phone to film and looks up at the house. She walks up to the house as she films. Okay, so now we're introducing one of the lead characters in this trailer, Tessa. She's 21. So if you see, we wrote Tessa with all capital letters. So in formatting, whenever you're introducing a new character, you put their age. If it's someone who's vague and it's like, let's say, like a killer, you don't know who the killer is, you're not going to put that in, You're not going to put the age in, because it's not identified yet. But in this case, we know who this person is. So it's all capital letter, and that's the only time you have to do it. In all other cases, you just write the name as usual, her age, and then she arrives at the resort, And in this case, we put a weekend bag or small luggage. We could have just chosen one, but it was just more to give an idea of the situation. So here we're establishing she's using her phone, so you already get an idea that she's maybe an influencer, because she's there on her phone filming instead of maybe just walking up and knocking on the door. And then we start with our first piece of dialogue. Tessa, seriously, this place has a super host rating. Tessa knocks on the door opens. So when you write a dialogue, you go and so in final draft, you can choose every time you're switching over. You can go all the way down, and you can just choose what part of the script you're describing. So in this case, you choose dialogue and you put her name in, Tessa, and then you write your first piece of dialogue. Seriously, this place has a super host rating, so you can already get an indication she's annoyed by the situation.
Seriously? This place has a super host rating?
From Pito Polo, the mastermind behind Bloodsuit and Raiders of District 9, comes a new thriller.
Welcome to the Bird Hotel.
No one knows where they came from or why they attacked.
Where are you? Is everybody safe?
A hotel. You need to stay hidden, okay?
You cannot seriously think that you can kill them all.
There is no rescue.
Only we can save ourselves. We will survive this.
So that's one of the major advantages of using dedicated software, because if you had to use Microsoft Word, that format, like it's default for, it's like it's mandatory format that characters be written in dialogue, be written in caps, and then their dialogue underneath, and it should be centralized. Actions should be aligned left. And trying to arrange that in Microsoft Word is just...
It's a pain, and as someone who's done it, a few times, it's not easy. That's why when I started first with Celtics, because it used to be a free software, and now I think it's more a closed software, so you have to pay for it. I think it's changed a lot, but I mean I stopped using it anyway.
I think I need to check that. I think Celtics, I think it's still free, but you have to work with it online, I think.
But no, even that,
to unlock all its features, it's paid.
even that's changed. So I think after a while, I don't know how long it is, like now I'm actually locked out of it and I can't get access to my scripts. I have to see, I collaborated a lot with a friend, so I have to see if he can get into Celtics so he can retrieve my scripts for me, because we have a collaboration on a lot of these projects, because now I can't even get in unless I pay, which is like, okay, they have my work hostage basically. So yeah, but that's something different, that's something aside. But indeed, like you said before, if you're working in Word document, you have to indeed format and write all of these things. While if you're using a software, all you have to do is click each time you're switching. If you're switching from a scene heading, if you're doing an action. So underneath the first dialogue of Tessa, where she says, seriously, this place has a superhost rating, we described an action. An action is what the person is doing. Tessa knocks on the door entrance, the door opens. And then we go to the next scene heading, which is to show you guys the switch. So first we see the view from outside, exterior, from the yard. But in the next heading, we're already indoors. So the heading says interior, vacation home, day. Okay, so then you see the introduction of a new character, the superhost, which is his age is 33, and he opens the door. The superhost, 33, opens the door. Superhost, welcome to the Birds Hotel. Oh wow, are you filming? We put that he's uncomfortable. Tessa, yes, it's for my blog. Do you mind? I have 80,000 followers and they're excited for my Rwandan adventure. So in this case, like we mentioned before, we did a fusion between Hotel Rwanda and the birds. And this is already an indication of that, because the location is called the Birds Hotel. And in the second set of dialogue, Tessa says, they're excited for my Rwandan adventure. So you already get an indication of the fusion of those two titles. So that's how you and I decided to introduce it. And then the superhost ends with, all right, come on in. So again, it's about, as soon as you're jumping from scene to scene and the scene changes locations, you have to indicate that on the script as well. And why that's also important is, once you have a script, your producer your producer is going to, or your first AD, if it's a bigger production. I say producer because usually in a small production you have a very limited amount of people. But if you have a bigger team, your first AD is going to take the script and break it down for the director into scenes, and that's going
Break
to
it down into pieces.
Because you can't probably shoot everything in one day, or if you can, like this script is easy to shoot in one day, but then you have to make the best out of your day. So once you break it down, you have to determine how you're going to film. Maybe you're going to film all your outside locations together, but then they're not going to be in chronological order. Or maybe you're going to choose to shoot all your indoors locations together. So maybe the first shot the first scene you're shooting is not going to be when Tessa arrives on location outside. Maybe you're doing everything indoors. You have to also think about realities. Let's say there's a lot of light, like in Zimbabwe and Curacao. As soon as it's like 11 a.m., the light is already strong, way too strong for shooting outdoors, let alone when it's 12, 1, 2, 3 p.m. So you want to do all your outdoors maybe early morning, let's say from 7 to 10, and then you move indoors. So that's why it's also very important to indicate, the heading, whether it's day or night. So when they break down the script and make the shooting schedule, they do it in a way that's more time efficient, cost efficient, that makes sense for everyone. So yeah. So POV is short for point of view, for those who don't know. From Tessa's point of view, and we did phone camera, we followed the superhost on a tour of the living area. Superhost. This hotel, air quote, has been in my family for many years. And Tessa, okay, and OS means off screen because she's shooting. So this was, and this is when I'm talking about a collaboration, the director's suggestion. So in the version before this, Tanasha just had like Tessa is following the superhost, but the director wanted it to be like a phone camera situation. That was his vision for it. So when we adapted it, we included that in the script. So from her point of view, using her phone camera, so we're not seeing Tessa, it's her camera filming the host, who was uncomfortable, if you remember. We follow the superhost on a tour of the living area, and then he says, this hotel has been on my family. And why we said okay off screen, because we hear Tessa in this instance, but we're not seeing her, so she's off screen in this case.
Thank you so much for that, Elizabeth. So all the links will be in the description below. Check out the downloads, and the next episode that we're going to have with Liz is going to be how you make a story, how you write a story, and how you develop a story arc. Look forward to that, and to all the viewers, goodbye.